it'll never happen again. You can't control. You can't control how a sheker, how lies are spread in the world. You can't control it so much. But what you could control is where you focus your energy. So I would love to see just as many people that put so much into fighting anti-Semitism. It's great. You're telling me what you're combating against. But what are we for?
What is home? Yes, we have our homeland Israel, and yes, we have homes throughout the diaspora. But our current reality is complex. Israel's at war, and anti-Semitism is rising around the world. So what does that mean for us? What does that mean for this question of home? Join me, Izzy, as I speak with Israeli and diaspora Jewry to better understand this new complex reality and unpack where we put ourselves in this physical and spiritual war. This is the My Israel Narrative podcast. We are very, very lucky to be sitting here today with Rav Shlomo Katz, who, if I'm not mistaken, is sitting right now in Efrat, and I'm speaking from Yerushalayim. And just really excited about this. We were just, connecting, sharing a little bit about this project, and I told Rav Katz, I think he's someone who just has a very honest, open, strong opinion about living here and purpose and goal. I was actually listening. Shout out to the Meaningful Minute podcast. I was listening again to your interview with them, and I think it was Nachi who said that you're someone who doesn't just live in Eretz Yisrael, but Eretz Yisrael really lives in you. And I thought, I don't know if you remember him saying that, but I was really taken aback by the comment, and I thought it was really powerful. And from what I have heard you share from the little bits I've been able to gather, it did ring true. So without further ado, we have Rav Katz here. I just want to let you take the floor. Just like to start off, just if you want to share where you're sitting, anything interesting.
First of all, that's a pretty powerful intro. I should take you on the road and just talk about. That's a very, very great place to be brought to. That I don't remember him saying that, but now that you say those words, that Eretz Yisrael, that's like the greatest aspiration I think that someone could have, not just to live here, but that it lives through you. I think that's the greatest aspiration. I think that's exactly where we're at right now in the Torah also, about Hashem telling Avram, go to this place where it's going to live through you. You're not going to just live there, it's going to live through you. So that's a great opener. I'm sitting right now in our brand new shul, in our brand new synagogue that we built. It's more a community center than just a shul. It's in the heart of Efrat. We built a dream that you're all welcome to come and join us and pray with us, dance with us, learn with us, sing with us, be with us in the heart of Efrat. It's a community called Shirat David. And I have the privilege of being the rabbi here of about 140 families that the majority of them understood that you have to keep on making aliyah, meaning almost everyone came from out of town, from out of Israel. But the real work begins once you're home, once you're here. So I'm surrounded by inspiring people, and I'm speaking out of my office.
And you've been in Israel how long? This time
my
around?
Parents, right. There were two. My parents made Aliyah in '89 when I was 9, and we came here. We were here for about a bit shy of 8 years. Those are pretty definitive years, 9 to 16. Yeah.
Oh.
And then we moved back, and I came back 20 years ago. So
wow,
20 years ago, just a few weeks ago. So it's a very special time.
Mazal tov. That's a big celebration.
Yeah, it is. It is. Baruch Hashem.
So what would you, if you have, I don't know, I mean, from 20 years and then the years before, kind of your most special, craziest, only in Israel moment? If the first one that comes to mind, you just say.
The first one that comes to mind right now is when my wife and I are in the car, and when the kids are in the back seat, and when we're driving from Efrat to Yerushalayim, my kids get a jolt of excitement and inspiration every time we pass by the holy soldiers that are guarding
Wow.
us.
Whoa.
And that's something that lives in their consciousness. And that's a great privilege. That might to have such children with such a gentle sense, just a very sensitive approach to the what is mundane for most people because it's just what is, but they feel it.
It touches me personally. I actually work for an organization. We help the army. We help soldiers both with religious needs and non-religious needs. And for me, it always puts it, like I'm forced to be jolted and put into perspective that this is the only Jewish army in the world. They're defending our only Jewish state. And they live on a different, they themselves, I think, as soldiers, are living
Right.
in a different level of consciousness than a typical
Right.
army or individuals trying to defend. So it's, but to recognize that from a young age is very, very powerful. So obviously you're doing something right over there. It's very strong.
I hope so.
That's special. Wow.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear from your perspective. I know there's different angles, different ways this can go, but what you really feel is the need, in your own words, the need for a Jewish state of Israel today, specifically right now, right here. Yeah.
There's two ways I feel of approaching this question. And I'm going to start with the one that I usually don't start with, but I think it's just where I'm at right now as I'm sitting here talking with you. And to me, that question is just like asking someone to explain to me the necessity of oxygen flowing through your system. And now I know for some people it doesn't register like that. I'm aware of that. But I think that all those that for them that question registers like that have to realize that the rest of the world, the rest of the Jewish world is not, or I shouldn't say the rest, but large chunks don't yet feel like that. So those that do have to get together and have to daven together, have to pray together to figure out how to become better spokesmen for the oxygen flow, right? For like, how do we give over the obvious in a way that needs to be heard today? And just like Eretz Yisrael, like it's called Eretz Canaan, like Canaan is Canaan is like the language of Hachna'ah. That means to submit yourself to something much bigger, to not to give up, but to give in and realize only through humility can you be a spokesman for Eretz Yisrael. Because the land itself humbles the daylights out of you. The experience of being here is the most humbling experience in the world. So to those that share that initial reaction of that's like asking what's the necessity of oxygen flowing through a human body, like let's get closer to each other and let's figure out a way to collectively pray and come up with the most incredible and inspirational message together collectively. To those that don't yet feel like that, I think that the necessity today of having a Jewish state, today, literally, it's right now. I'm not sure when you're airing this, but we're in November of 2022. One of the most famous artists and one of the most famous athletes in the United States of America have made the obvious crystal clear again this last month that Jews belong home. And some people feel like the Jewish pride is this is just my personal opinion. People feel that Jewish pride is about standing up to anti-Semitism, making sure it'll never happen again. No one can make sure of such things. With all the money that's been put in to programming to try to make sure that'll never happen again, you can't control how a sheker, how lies are spread in the world. You can't control it so much. But what you could control is where you focus your energy. So I would love to see just as many people that put so much into fighting anti-Semitism. It's great. You're telling me what you're combating against, but what are we for? Where's the positive energy? The positive energy is one thing. It's coming home. It's coming home, God forbid, before you have to run home.
Gosh.
And that's a reality. That's just a reality. And I know that people would say, stop using the fear factor. I'm not using any fear factor. I'm speaking just from my kishkas, is that we have such a beautiful luxury to come home like kings and queens. Yeah, let's keep on coming home like kings and queens, and not, God forbid, as peasants that are running away.
Amen. Amen. I mean, what you're saying about the breathing, just something that, taking the analogy like a step further, I think it's something like a lot of people today, it's like this whole new conscious movement of like breath work and learning how to breathe properly and getting oxygen into your body. So I think it's like what we're really saying is you can keep walking around like that and you'll breathe and you'll function, you'll live. But if you learn how to like I'm someone who takes very shallow breaths, but when I try and consciously take deeper breaths, I like my body functions in a different way. So it's like, yes, we can keep going that way. And the same thing with the, taking a step further, you're talking about how people are just trying to fight the anti-Semitism. You can just keep fighting and you'll be okay and you'll keep going. But if you want to like really take it head on, like what Hashem is really asking for us, what being a Jew is really asking of us, it's to come from the other side, to holistically approach it and say, owning, like, and I think there's a little more of that happening. I have to say, I think there's a little bit more of, yes, there's that fight rhetoric that's out there, but there's a little bit more of the wear your Jewish star, be proud, wear your kippah. So I feel like I'm seeing that more this time around than I have in the past. I do think there's an extra step to that, which is taking the full picture, and especially with Israel and understanding what Israel is, and you're hearing a little bit more of the talk also, like, where else are we going to go? I've heard that more in the past year and a half than ever before, probably since around Corona time, where people they're acknowledging it. I'm not saying they're necessarily making a change and doing something different. And this is not meant to be a whole pro Aliyah thing, although myself and made Aliyah, and I believe in it, and I do think it's what to do, but it's just owning the reality. I think that's like the step we're at right now, is like really owning it and saying, this is who I am, this is where we're supposed to be going. And if I'm going to invest my energy anywhere, that's where it's going to go. So it's strong. The breath, the breathing analogy was very strong for me. So I appreciate it.
As someone that really is a big Wim Hof chassid, if you know who Wim Hof is, his whole methodology of breathing, you could check him up. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that when you own where you're at, you can begin to clearly know where you're heading to. And the first question that God ever asked a human being wasn't why did you do something wrong? It was, where are you at? Ayeka. Ayeka doesn't mean why did you sin? It means, okay, you sinned, but where are you? To realign yourself again. So when you own the reality of where you're at, you could begin to walk with a destination that's much clearer. So Baruch Hashem, I agree with you. We're definitely better. The manner in which that reality comes out is not for us to decide. It's just a matter of how we exercise our free choice once we realize where we're at.
Recognize where you're at. I think I've had this burning question, and it kind of interplays with all this, is I think people are afraid to fully own things, or fully own their Judaism and their support of Israel and all that, because it's been very tainted. I think one idea, methodology, word in particular that's been very tainted is that of Zionism. How do you look at Zionism? How do you approach Zionism? How do you approach being a Zionist, right? You hear it much less, people actually just saying, I'm a Zionist. And it's not that all the power is in the word or in how we define ourselves or box ourselves in, but I think there's something to that. So I'm just curious if it's something you identify with, how you define Zionism, how you would kind of your advice to people to finding their voice through being a Zionist today.
You are cutting through the heart of everything with this question, because I don't know when this happened, but Zionism, maybe it was always like this, and we just got older. Maybe it was always like this. Could be, but it's almost like the Zionism puts you immediately into a religious or political camp.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I always understood Zionism was it meant being Jewish. It didn't mean what's your feelings about moving to Israel. It was hand in hand with the first thing that God told the first Jew was to go home to Eretz Yisrael. Is that a political statement? Is that a religious statement? I don't understand when it became. I don't understand when it became like that. The world that I grew up in was a very active Zionist energy in terms of people that affiliated with the modern Zionist, religious Zionist movement. But one of the great things that I have the privilege of learning with my friends is that those that don't ascribe to the Zionist movement, many of them love this holy land just as much, if not more than me. That's why, like for instance, the Satmar Rebbe. The Satmar Rebbe, his words when he speaks about the holiness of the Holy Land, I wish I got to the toenails of how he felt the holiness of the Holy Land. So I think that it's very important for us to realize that when a term is being used to divide between Jews, it cannot be holy. It can't be holy. So do we have to stop using the statement Zionism? I mean, I don't know. I think it just has to. Maybe the lingo has to change. You know what? Maybe it does. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that. I don't know what the next word is. But I think that
being a Jew
terminology that. Well, so that I mean that's what I was saying before. It's like for me, Zionist meant Jewish. I still don't understand the difference between the two.
Right. I mean, and that's the world, in the non-Jewish world especially, or those in particular that are not for Israel, not pro-Israel, they do separate the two a lot of the time, right? We are not anti-Jewish, we're anti-Zionist. So there's that lingo has been played up so strongly that then I think as Jews, we've started to separate the two. And that's where it's dangerous. That's where the danger comes in. Like, why are we separating them? I think you're hitting the nail on the head. It doesn't, and generations before never did. They never thought to.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I'm up for like stopping that. I'm up for changing the narrative. Yeah.
So yeah, but one of the other things that's top of mind for me is I'm always trying to understand, to kind of circumvent it and come back to it. But what is the biggest what do you feel is one of the biggest misconceptions that Jews in particular have about Israel? I would say for me, just on this topic, one of them is this separation of Judaism and Israel, like being a Jew and being connected to Israel. But curious if there's any others that you see, and any ideas that come to mind of how to kind of shed the light on it. I won't say combat it, because I agree with your earlier statement of like not trying to shut down the anti-Israel rhetoric, but to shine light.
Right. That's very good stuff. One of the things that, as the rabbi of a community, I'm in constant contact with families that are abroad, that are thinking about moving here, but the questions that come up by concerned parents all have to do with the way here that the educational system in the religious Zionist communities, or whatever that means, how the educational system here is more what we say hefker. How do you say hefker in English?
I think it's up for grabs, but that's not
up for grabs, right? Less authoritative. I don't know. I think that the questions regarding education of children, that's where I'm at right now in life. I see that that's one of the greatest misconceptions, because I just told you what my children get inspired of when we drive outside from Efrat to Yerushalayim. I also pay about $30,000 less for each of my children's Jewish education here in this land, right? So you tell me
Yeah, I
what's
don't know why that
considered
doesn't
Jewish
ring.
education.
Why
I
that
don't
doesn't
know. You
ring
think
more in
that
people's
right?
ears? You'd
You
think that would win
you
people
think
over.
you think that would be enough? You think that'd be everything? So yeah, I don't know either. But I think that misconception of, when you're not at home and you're in the exile, so the manner in which you know if the education is working is very different than when you're in your natural home. It works differently. The results are different. And meaning the way they play out is very different. It's a much more organic success rate. It's basically, it's not things that you could maybe tell in numbers, but it's things that you could maybe tell with soul. And these are things that can't be traced or documented. They're simply in exist. It's simply what's happening. And I think that's so it's not only a misconception, it's basically like trying to explain to someone how beautiful marriage is when they're not married. So I can explain everything in the world, but until you're in it and doing the work and feeling and experiencing everything that marriage has to offer, this is just outside stuff, whatever I say. And I think that's also a very big and important shift that has to happen when it comes to what we call aliyah advocacy. Because maybe it was enough once upon a time to show how the day-to-day life in Israel is not that crazily different than the way that you were living your life in America. Whether that's true or not is irrelevant. Because here we're dealing with neshama, we're dealing with soul, we're dealing with experiencing life on a much higher and different state than whatever we were accustomed to outside the land. So what I'm saying is, like, as much as maybe in the past, again, it was important to highlight the similarities and point out misconceptions and calming people down. I think that maybe the job is to get people to be fully, excited to be experiencing life on a much higher level and with more meaning than they could have ever imagined. But that could only happen really here.
It's true. You live, I go back and forth between the States and here quite a bit. And doing so, you feel the contrast. You very, very strongly. And it's so clear why it's so easy to stay there and to pull you in. And once you stay, and anyone I speak to that comes and goes from, there's what to be there for. But when you come and you spend, I'm not talking to come here on a vacation, 10 days, 2 weeks. When you come and you dig your feet into the ground and you experience day-to-day life and the challenges, and like anyone asks me, what's it like living here? It's like living anywhere. I have my good days, I have my bad days, and my ups and my downs, but it's like almost like it's wrapped around with a bow. Isn't everything like I feel like I'm being carried? I feel like you really do. And you have to open your eyes to it and you have to live consciously. I'm not saying you can just come and, expect everything to move. You have to put in the effort, but there's a different energy that is around you. And that's something that's hard to communicate.
Yeah.
Till you come. So that's the challenge. That's where we have to, you're right, in changing the Aliyah narrative, but the how is
I love what you just said. Everything's wrapped around in a bow. I love that. I love that. It's so true. That's so meduyak. That's so exact. I love that. That's great. It's so true. That's exactly this it's this gift. You can't explain it, but like you said, until you're in it, you won't feel the wrapping.
You're in it. Yeah. There you go. Was that the Shem, more people can experience it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you have to wrap up, but I want to ask you in closing, kind of what's when you think of Israel, the first word or the first phrase that comes to mind for you? Think about living here, being here, as a Jew being here.
Light.
Light.
That's the first word. Light. Everyone talks about being a light to the nations. So they think that means going out and being a light to the nations, but sometimes it's a very famous parable from the rabbis that there's two ways of giving. There's two ways of giving. One is that when someone pours something into your cup, whatever you get into your cup, you go and you pour to someone else. And the other way of giving is that you fill up your cup and you keep on filling up into that cup until it naturally spills out. from the cup itself. And when people of Israel are back home, living the life that we're destined for, being in a constant vibrant relationship with God, which means being in a vibrant relationship with each other. There's no contradiction there. So everyone wins and everyone benefits, and that's how I believe we become true light upon the nations, true light in the world, by this natural spillage that's happening from here, from this tiny sliver of land.
So living your truth, and more that's people are acknowledging that and speaking about that. And it's living on your own individual level, living your truth. So if that means for you right now, being here, being, whatever it is, and then that emanates outwards to your own micro community, to your family, then to your micro community. And that's what you're doing, exactly what you're doing in Efrat. And by you building this community of families, you have more people that are saying, wow, there's somewhere for me to go. There's somewhere for me to feel at home. And so then, without you necessarily going and advocating about it, people just see and hear and are attracted to it.
You got it. Boom.
Boom. That's actually beautiful. It's really beautiful.
That's exactly it. That's why I feel like the luckiest person in the world. Not because I could tell you that it all works and we succeeded, but because if that's the collective drive amongst the people that I'm living with, we're hopefully conduits and a vessel for that light to have a place to be poured into and to be continued to be poured into, where everyone benefits and everyone wins. And not just the Jewish world, the non-Jewish world, the world, humanity wins. My rabbi once said, the world is waiting for Jews to just be in love with being Jewish, because they'll win. Yeah.
Oh, it's this whole movement today. Love yourself, right? And then the secular world, not about the Jewish world, just love yourself.
Right.
But we forget to apply that to like the essence of who we are, which is being a Jew and owning it. So all these ideas, it's there, it's out there in the greater world, the Jewish world, and we just have to bring them, like you're saying, bring them home to us, to our micro worlds. So we have the strength to do it.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen. Please, God.
Very, very much. That was really
with honor.
Keep going, and that's Hashem should give you a lot of hatzlacha and all you're doing to grow the community and to just be your truest, brightest selves here in Eretz Yisrael, and you should see a lot more people coming home very, very soon.
Amen. Come join us for Shabbos as soon as possible.
Would love it. Take you out. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Wonderful. You got it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of My Israel Narrative. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow along and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Yisrael Chai.